Hello, friends, and welcome back to New Day Live, where faith and community come together to inspire and encourage. I'm Melchi Johnson, founder of New Day, and on the Season 2, Episode 2 of the show, our guests discussed rising from the pain and heartache of divorce to a place of purpose and power. Whether you're recently divorced or a longtime divorcee, single, married, or engaged, this episode is for you. I was pleased to welcome Yolanda Randolph, co-author of the book, My Husband Chose the Homewrecker Over Me, Now What?, and host of the Her Intuition Movement podcast, and Roshonda N. Blackmon, co-author of the book, and host of her own podcast, Matters of the Heart with Roshonda. I was entirely blessed from the sharings of these two ladies during this interview, and I know you will be as well. Thank you so much for listening. And side note, my apologies for the audio on my microphone during the interview, as I'm still learning my way around this podcasting experience. Thank you. On today's episode, we're going to talk about rising from the pain and heartache of divorce to a place of purpose. For those of you listening who are divorced, either recently or longer than recently, I hope you'll be blessed by the sharing of these two wonderful ladies who will tell us a little about their personal journeys and the work God has called them to help other women rise and me. So I'm going to ask them now to introduce themselves, starting with you, Yolanda. Then we'll jump right into our conversation. So Yolanda, take it away.
Hello, everybody. Yolanda Randolph here. I am a motivator, a podcaster, an author, and my whole goal is to help inspire as many women as I possibly can to move past pain and heartache and all of the that makes us mad. And so my goal is to move us past all of that and just be the best us as women that we can be.
Wonderful, Yolanda. And you and I were just sharing about your energy and your just positivity across your channels and on your podcast, which we'll talk about. And so I really appreciate just the little bit so far that I have listened to and read about from your works. And I know that, as I said, others will be blessed by it as well. So thank you so much. And we're going to move to Roshonda next to introduce herself.
Hey everyone. My name is Roshonda Blackmon. I am a children's book author, a blogger, creator, and I have a podcast, of course, called Matters of the Heart with Roshonda. And honestly, I'm just a Christian woman. I love inspiring people. And my main goal is, though, for people to put expiration dates on their past so they won't abort the future. So I feel like that's what God has called me to do. So whether that's in writing or whether that's in speaking, it's, it all leads back to the word of God and God, just in a different way where people can understand.
I love that. Put an expiration date on your past and move forward in your future. See, this is why I knew that you ladies were meant to be on this show, because I'm already like, where's my pen, my journal? I'm ready to take some notes. So let's jump into our conversation. So let me see. Put that, get over here. So Yolanda, my first question is for you, and it relates to the title of your book. My husband chose the homewrecker over me. Now what? Now there's a subtitle of the book, but I'm going to pause right there. And we're going to talk about this first part of the title of the book. You acknowledged in one of your podcast episodes that you get this question all the time.
Yes.
How did you come up with the title of this book? My husband, you just blatantly come out, chose the homewrecker over me. Now what? Tell us about how you arrived at just being bold enough to just come out and say it, the homewrecker over me.
Well, because that's exactly what he did. Okay. My ex-husband, well, retrospect, he really chose himself. But during those times, to me, I felt like he chose the homewrecker. He cheated on me and he chose her. And so my whole thing is being transparent. And we can't be transparent with what happened to us how we got past it, and how can we really help ourselves and then other women as well. And so that's why I just put it out there. Hey, my husband chose the homewrecker over me. But then I asked myself that question. Now what? Now, are you going to allow yourself to sit in this pain, or are you going to do something about it? And so I chose to do something about it, not go and fight and all of that stuff. I chose to ask myself that question, now what? And then I worked through it. And through that, that's where the book comes in. I put all of that stuff in the book to teach other women just exactly what I did to move past that. That's where it came from. He did.
I got you, and I appreciate your honesty. Again, your boldness about putting it out there, and that's where my next question for you is. So within the content of the book, again, it's a no holds barred account of your journey, along with your podcast, Her Intuition Movement. At what point did you realize that you started to gain your voice, if you will, or realize your purpose and determine that this is what you wanted to do as far as, yourself, rising from your own pain to your purpose and then helping other women to do the same?
Well, this is going to be kind of funny because I never really wanted to be an author. I never really wanted to be a podcaster, none of that stuff. But see, God said, it's not about what you want.
Right.
I'm using your pain. Thank you, Father, to push you and others into a new realm. So the fact that he did that to me, the way that he done it, and you will see it in the book when you read the book, the way that he done it was so unreal to me that if I did not do something with it by helping other women, then I would just fold. And so, I chose, after the tears stopped, I chose right then to do something about this. And so I had a friend of mine say, why don't you do a podcast? Now, for those of you who have read some of my books and my social media and all that stuff, I'm not the best one with all of the technology and all of that stuff. So I wasn't really feeling a podcast. But she said, I'm going to help you because many women need to know your journey. They need to know your story. And so I believe that God spoke through my friend to be able to do the podcast. And I just began to speak about my pain. I began to speak about what I did to move past things. I began to speak about things that happened in my past. And so I began to find my voice after the tears stopped. After I had to realize within myself that I'm better than this. I'm better than feeling as if the home wrecker is better than I am, because God gave us all the equal playing field here. She's no better than me because my deadbeat ex-husband chose her. Absolutely not. He chose himself during that whole process. So I had to get women to understand that when you're in your pain and you're feeling so low about yourself, you will begin to internalize that. And so I had to find my voice first to be able to help other women find theirs.
Yes.
So after the tears stopped is when I found my voice to be a voice for others. And then hopefully they all can find their voices.
Love it, love it, love it. So tell us a little bit more about the podcast, which I mentioned is called Her Intuition Movement. What can listeners expect to hear in the episodes, and where can they find it?
Well, you can find it on all podcasting platforms, but I like to push Apple and Spotify because that's where most of my listeners go. And so that's where I always push people to go and join me. But you hear a lot of inspiration and motivation, and to keep not just my audience motivated, but myself too. So if we're not constantly telling ourselves how beautiful we are, how special we are, then we tend to forget that. And so that's my main goal for the podcast is, hey, Yolanda Randolph's been through it. If I have, God pulled me through, he will pull you through too. And so that's what that podcast is all about. It's all about uplifting and motivating and inspiring and reminder of your strength, because the strength is already inside of us, ladies. It's there. It may seem like it's dwindled, but no, it's not. You must pull on it. And when you begin to pull on it, you will begin to see just how strong and mighty that you really are. And so that's what that podcast is all about, pulling on our strength.
I love it. I keep saying that throughout this time with you all. I love it, and I truly do. And it is so inspirational. She brings the energy, just like you are hearing right now in this episode. So I
Yes.
encourage you all to follow the podcast, listen to it, listen to the episodes, give it a rating, and really let's support Yolanda in this work. And you also
Oh,
have
thank
an
you.
awards portion that's
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
tell us about the awards, her Intuition Movement Awards as well.
Well, that's every October.
Hmm.
And I done it because, see, I'm a domestic violence survivor as well. Y'all probably
Hmm.
saying, y'all look, Yolanda been through a lot. Well, Yolanda has been through a lot, okay?
Hey, haven't we all? We just like the point of this podcast is to show us,
Uh-huh.
from what we've been through, God
Mm-hmm.
has a plan.
Yes. Yes. So I hold it every October, and it's to celebrate all the strength that's inside of all of us women.
Hmm.
It's an award that I give out. People go and nominate other women. And right now it's just for women. Men, I know some of y'all saying, what about us? It may be coming soon, but right now it's for the women, okay? It's for the
Gotcha.
beautiful ladies out there, my fellow sisters. And so
Yes.
what I do is I push towards people donating to safe houses and
Hmm.
donating to domestic violence advocates and centers and stuff like that to be able to help our sisters who are in need. And
Hmm.
so that's the whole point of the award show every October, is to get more eyes and ears on domestic violence awareness, because October is domestic violence awareness month, and that's why I chose to do it in October.
Right.
And then, but at the same time, giving all of the women to remind them again of their strength. So
Hmm.
that the war show that ties into the podcast, reminding you of your strength, reminding you who you are as a woman, all of that stuff. And so I like to celebrate my fellow sisters. And so that's what that award show is all about.
Wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And we
You're
are
welcome.
going to move to you, Miss Roshonda, as co-author of the book and host of your
Mm-hmm.
own podcast. My first question for you is, why is it important for women to hear your and Yolanda's message in this very bold and very open and honest way as they seek to be healed from their own pain? Why is it important to hear it in the way that you all deliver it?
It kind of goes back to what Yolanda said earlier. Transparency is key. And
Mm-hmm.
I think in the day and time that we're living in, a lot of times we got social media, you got people flexing on social media, they showing you one side, but they're not willing to be real about what's really going on, because they want you
Right.
to the facade, the
Mm-hmm.
facade, and all this other type of stuff. And I think it's very important that we be transparent to let people
Mhm.
know that, women especially, that hey, we've been through this. And Yolanda told me something. She was like, we're not psychologists, and
Mhm.
every book that she read, it
Yes.
came from a psychologist point of view, not
Mhm.
real women with real life experiences,
Yes.
whatever. And so we felt like it was important to share the good, the bad, the ugly,
Mhm.
in this book, because I feel like most women will relate to that. It's
Mhm.
transparent, and even though me and her we had the same experiences but differing experiences, I think they can gain something from her as well as from me. But I think transparency is key. Women and men and everyone I know, for me personally, I relate to someone better when they're being transparent.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And what better way to do it than through story form? So
Yes.
people can understand, they understand a little bit better. So,
Mhm. Mhm.
that was
Mm-hmm.
important to me.
Yeah.
Yes, and I appreciated your sharing in the book about your family, history and with your mom, with your grandmother. And I was thinking that, especially for Black women,
Mm-hmm.
we may not realize how our mothers' journeys, our grandmothers' journeys can trickle down, if you will, to us
Right.
until, as you were saying, we come to that realization that, we need to talk about this. We need to be transparent about this. And so I really appreciated your vulnerability in the book to
Mm-hmm.
share. about that aspect of your life.
Mhm.
I wanted to sort of go back a little bit and ask you, Roshonda, how did you and Yolanda come to partner in this work? And I believe you all shared that either in one of your episodes or one of Yolanda's podcast episodes. But tell our listeners how you all came to partner in this work and to come together to write the book and continue to share with women and again me who are experiencing this type of pain and heartache.
Oh my goodness. So where do I start? But so me and Yolanda, honestly, our friendship came by happenstance,
Yeah.
because I am a creator and she needed some things done. And so we became in contact with each other by another friend I have named Yolanda.
Oh, wow.
So so she was like, oh, so she hooked, told Yolanda about me. And honestly, you know how people say, and the rest is history, and that's pretty
Yes.
much. Now, as far as the book is concerned, I never thought that Yolanda would even ask me to write, to do this because, I'm like, oh, girl, you're doing your books. Oh, okay, good. Then one day she was like, this was like April of last year. She was like, God put something in my spirit. She said, I'm going to bring it to you. She said, but I feel like, I need you to help with this book. And I'm like,
yes.
I'm sure God talked to you, about me. And she was like, yeah. And it was so much going on at that time because my daughter was graduating high school and it was so many other things going on. I was like, Yolanda, I was like, okay. But the crazy thing is that it didn't take me long to even think about it. Mm-hmm. So, because usually I'm like, well, let me pray on it. Let me, but it's like, as soon as she said it, I was like, okay, I said, well, maybe this summer, I said, to get myself together, and in July we just went from there. But I'm still honored that she even asked me to even do this. And I think I think along the way, I was asking her, like, are you sure? I think I was a little more self-conscious. She was like, girl, yeah, you did. I'm like, okay. But I just thank God, just our stories coming together. We didn't realize that we had so much in common. Yes. So, it just worked. It just worked. And I just thank God.
Had you chronicled your story before, Roshonda, before the book?
Because I was a blogger. So, some things came out in the blog. But this is the first time. And it's crazy because when I was asking God, like, where do I start with this? Like, where does this come from? And he gave me my mom. He was like, start with her, because there's a beginning and a root to everything. Right. And so that's where I started with. But I chronicled some things in the blog. And it's crazy because I told Yolanda, I said, God blessed me to write about this way before, because some of those chapters came from the blog that I had written about. It was just at certain times because I was a blogger for 5 years, it was just certain times during those times that God put things on my heart and I wrote about it, not knowing that it would be going into this book. So it's amazing how God does things.
It is amazing. And look, I'm going to say this. I want to guess that when Yolanda approached you about this partnership, with her energy and just knowing how close she is to God, I can see why it didn't take you long to say yes to this project, because I know that she was like, yes, we need to get this thing going, and it is you that God has put on my heart to join me in this. So to hear y'all talk even now today, and to kind of like on your podcast, on hers, in the book even, it seems like y'all have known each other forever, for all of your lives. And but to know that, God put this together for this purpose, just says, about who he is and his plan and how he wants to do things in the order that he wishes to do things. So I am thankful for the partnership myself. Roshonda, your podcast is called Matters of the Heart, and as you describe it, I think I saw it maybe on the Spotify description or somewhere. You say it's mental food for the soul. So please share with our listeners the premise of your podcast and how we can expect to be empowered by it and where we can find your podcast.
So mental food for the soul, when you think about food, right? You think about eating some good food. And I don't know about y'all, but I'm a foodie.
Yes, I am.
Me too.
I love, amen to that.
Yes.
But I love good food. And so I look at, mental food as something that will uplift you. We feel uplifted when we eating something good. So mentally, spiritually, and physically, it's just mental food for your soul, because we have everything else that feeds us. But what about this? What about mental? God is deals with us in many, many different ways. And I know the way he deals with me, I try to relate that, on the podcast. So matters of the heart is whatever God puts in my heart to say, then I share that. Right. Usually it's in story form. It's usually in the things that he's dealt with me about. And then I take that and I relate it to the word of God, not to be so preachy, because I think we've been preached out. People want to hear real, hey, if you dealing with something, hey, I want to hear about it, right. And so that's the way, that's what it is on the podcast. So the first Sunday is a Sunday's thought. It's just some thoughts and some things that God has given me that I share with the audience. And then there's Thursday's tips, because I love telling people how to do stuff, showing people how to do things. And that can be as simple as, do I check emails after work? After I leave the boss's office, do I check emails on the weekend? And that answer, no, you shouldn't. But
thank you.
But how do I do that in a way to make it, to make me the boss not hate me? So it's things like that. So there's spiritual, right? And then there's, things that can help you in everyday life. So it's every first Sunday is a Sunday's thought. Every second Thursday is a Thursday's tip. And that's like once a month. But you can find it everywhere. It's on Spotify. It's on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeart,
Okay. And for your own sort of mental health, if I may say it, I think in your last episode or in the most recent one, you are taking a break from the podcast in order to just kind of, give yourself some time to rest and revive and reinvigorate, if you will. So tell us how, like you said, do I check email over the weekend? Do I need to take a break from podcasting or from social media? Tell us how you come to those places of these types of decisions, and how they can help those of us, because, we come home on the weekend, I got to check my email, or I got to be on social 24/7, or, whatever it is. So why is it important to you to have these places where you're like, and basically it's saying no?
Yes. So I wrote a blog post one time and it says, no is the new sexy.
I need to find that.
Yes, no is the new sexy. I think I wrote it in 2018. No is the new sexy. So, it's okay to say no, but I think sometimes, and I'm a recovering people pleaser, because sometimes, we get into these spaces where we feel like, oh, I have to say yes. I have to say yes all the time. I have to say yes to church all the time. And I'm going to be honest with you, honey. Sometimes you can get burnt out, and that's just in ministry, okay?
Tell us about it.
You doing things thinking that, I'm doing it, to please God. I'm pleased. Works ain't gonna do it. I can tell you that right now. But you need to take a break. But for me, it starts with prayer, because I didn't always be this way. I kept going and going and going and going. But what I realized is that while I was there for everybody else, doing for everybody else, helping everybody else out of their situations, when I really needed somebody the most, because my mental psyche was all over the place, no one No one was there for me. The
Wow.
only
Right.
thing I got was, I'm giving you food, I'm giving you drink, I'm giving you all these things to help you through your process. And the only thing I get is, a toothpick,
Right.
for my situation, so to speak.
Yeah.
So it's like, girl, what are you doing? And then you have to sit back and ask yourself, who am I really doing this for? Like, let's be
Right.
honest. Am I
Mhm.
really doing this for people because I want to look good, or am I doing this for some other reason? And I think that's the first thing you have to ask yourself. Why am I really doing this? Why?
Mhm.
And I think when you come to that conclusion and be honest with yourself,
Mhm.
then you can kind of work on some things and say, hey, I need to push back. So
Right.
sometimes we keep going and going and going and going and going, and honey, I have to take care of my mental care, my mental self-care is mental. So I have to
Yes.
take care of my mind,
Mhm.
what makes me happy, I have to be selfish with myself, because if I don't, nobody else is going to do that for me.
Mhm.
That's
So
right.
I have to come up with, hey, I'm taking a 3-month break.
Yeah.
That's just what it's gonna be. And
I hear you.
I'm just gonna do what God has asked me to do, and just things like that, so I can be refreshed. So, the next time, because I'm not only do this, but I'm also an elder. So I have
Mhm.
ladies up under me that I have to,
Right.
that God has graced me to, to do things for them. If I'm all over the place, I can't feed them, tell them what God has given me if I'm, my mental health is not right. So
Gotcha.
Yes.
Yolanda, what about you? What are some ways that you adopt, some mental health breaks or rest
Mhm.
as relates to your work? How do you, um, incorporate that into your life?
Well, I do take a break during the holiday time,
Hmm.
around Thanksgiving, Christmas, spend time with my family and all. And so that's really when I do my resting time.
Yeah.
But so and then I breathe a lot. I breathe through things and remember why I'm doing what I do. And
Hmm.
so really that's my time to take my break is during the holidays. But then throughout the year,
Hmm.
like I said, I'm remembering what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. And that is my mental meal, as Roshonda
Right.
was saying, is that is my mental, the food for my mental is to remember why I'm doing what I do. And
Right.
so, and I'm inspired by Roshonda. Roshonda
Hmm.
inspires me when she
Yeah.
talked about how she's going to take a break and all, and to focus on herself and her mental well-being. And so, I'm proud of my sister, and I thank her for
Yes.
giving all of us that motivation and inspiration to, hey, be still sometimes, quiet down,
It
chill out.
absolutely. And to tie it back to the theme or the main message of the book, if you will,
Mhm.
that's part of our healing. If
Yes.
we are, always, even in our thoughts and just kind of in our everyday going here, going there, if we're
Hmm.
not taking the time to sit and be still, as you just said, and to
That's
rest
right.
our minds, that's not fully being healed.
Hmm.
And that's a large part of it. So I'm with you. I appreciate Roshonda's decision to
Yes.
say, look, I'm thinking. And when she on the podcast, when she was about to say that, I was, expecting to hear, "Oh, I'm not going to be back for the next couple of weeks." And I was like, 3 months? Good
Yeah.
gracious! She means this. She
Yes.
absolutely means this, and it's intentional. And
Hmm.
yes, again, I was very inspired and motivated and encouraged to take a
Yes.
look at that in my own life. It's a little quieter for some of us as far as work and our professions, maybe at church. I don't know. So it's a
Hmm.
perfect time in this season, in the summer season, after we kind of get
Hmm.
through graduations and all of those
Oh,
things,
yes.
go on a vacation or, a staycation or,
Hmm.
whatever you want to, do. But I think this is a good time to incorporate that as well.
Yeah,
So I
it
appreciate
is.
that. Um, Ladies, I could talk to you all for the rest of the day. I truly could. I know you all have things to do. But any closing thoughts? What, if you could choose one thing to leave with our listeners today, Roshonda, what would that be?
Ooh. Um, I think I just have to piggyback off of what we just said. Just take time for you. And that's just not because, you know, last month was mental health awareness month. Don't just do it because it's a month. Do it because it's, you know, you. Take out time for you. Evaluate your friendships. Evaluate your personal relationships. Evaluate your time. Evaluate what you're doing. Evaluate your life.
Yes.
Right. Sometimes we don't want to take out the time, you know, and just sit down and really think about, what am I doing? Where am I going? What is it that I want to do? Take the time to do that and just be clear about, you know, where you want to go, what you want to do, and how you want to do it. It's a little work because sometimes we don't want to work, you know, we just want things to be given to us or somebody to tell us a 3-step program and then we going on by our business. But this takes time and it shows how much you care about yourself, you know, when you do things like that. And so that's what my tip would be. Just take care of you. Like really take care of you. Taking care of you, you're able to take care of everybody else, but take care of you first.
Awesome. Thank you. Yolanda, what about you?
I share my sister Roshonda's sentiments, but yes, absolutely. You must take care of you. And when you're doing that, remember just how strong you are. The strength is already inside of you, Queen, is there. Sometimes I know we feel like it's not there, but it is in there. All that you go through, all that you've been through, use that stuff as your motivator to push you to your purpose. The strength, just remember that, is inside of you. Sometimes it's deep in there. But you have the power to pull on that string. And so just keep that going and keep remembering to choose you, just like Roshonda said, choose yourself. And when you're doing that, you force others to be kind to you and to choose you too.
Right.
So that's my last words there.
To encourage others to choose you too. I think that's a good place to end it. And I just, again, encourage our listeners to get the book, listen to the Her Intuition Movement podcast, along with the Matters of the Heart with Roshonda podcast. And I'm telling you, you will be entirely blessed.